So I think I'm gonna have this good night tea to help calm me. Which one do you want? It's a good night, refresh, and a cold and flu. And this is just
refresh. I'll take the refresh.
I like that taste. No, I'm gonna drink it 5 minutes.
Hello everybody, it's Wanda from Crazy Days, and today is a conversation of friends. And we have Cynthia with us today, and she's going to tell you a little bit about herself in a few minutes. But we actually started this about 4 days ago, and Danny interrupted us with his thumb. So we are starting over, and we're going to see if we can get through our conversation without interruptions. If you hear things in the background, it's just Danny and Dexter, right?
Probably.
So I'm going to let Cynthia introduce herself, and then we're going to talk a little bit about her teas, her farm, her health, and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Miss Wanda, for having us again. Good morning, y'all.
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea with Miss Wanda. Excited to be here. My name is Cynthia Denson. I'm a retired educator at this point. I retired this past June. I am a wife of 30 years to Dexter, who is with Mr. Danny, and hopefully they're being safe. And we have 2 boys, Diamante and Devin. Diamante is married to Stephanie, and they have 2 children.
Very small children.
Yes, 2 small children. Noah is 6 weeks. Kingsley is 15 months. Kingsley is a foster who we are going to adopt. They're going to adopt. And we just learned a little bit more about that last night in which they were here. So we're very excited about that.
Good.
And Devin is my youngest, and they both work at the English Tea Room in Covington, Louisiana, and enjoying it. So we have a lot to keep us busy, even though I'm retired. We have those 2 little ones in which we babysat a little bit yesterday while they went and had coffee and whatever, give them some time away. So we're very excited about that. But so as I said, I retired this past June, and there were just so many things happening in education, and so many things just happening around us and in our world, you know, coming out of COVID. And it just really, I'm the kind of person that, first of all, God has gifted me to work with people, and I know that He has given me a heart for people, and especially for children and families. And so whatever I do in that arena, I just give it all of myself. Like, I give everything. And so giving everything cost me a little bit more than it probably needed to. And I think I just went too far along without really paying attention to myself. And finally just got to the point where I couldn't look away anymore.
Yeah.
And I began to, you know, search out what I needed to do. And one thing the Lord gave me was, I've got to take my health into my own hands. Like, I don't want to be on the doctors. I don't want to be on a lot of medication. And there were so many people around me that was just on multiple medications, and I'm just not going to sacrifice myself in that way to stay in the job, to be on a blood pressure pill or on something for anxiety or something for different. I'm just not going to do that. So, and praying and talking to the Lord and talk to Dexter, and then we decided that retirement would probably be the best thing for me, and that way I can come home and I can, you know, sit down and really concentrate on myself and, you know, get myself well. So in the process of that, I guess in the month of June, like, I was already having some issues, but in the month of June, like, I started having this pain in my arm. This is when this is where the herb part came in. So I started having this pain in my, I actually started in my back, and so I thought maybe I had done too much in the garden or pulled too many weeds or something, or just didn't do it properly. And so that went on for a little while, and it hurt so bad, like I couldn't even receive a hug or give a hug, like it was that painful. And when people would hug me, I would just kind of grimace a little bit, trying to hold myself so it wouldn't hurt. And so then I would have Dexter to rub it at night, and he would put some comfrey on it, and rub it or whatever, and that would help some. And then it got to my shoulder, and so it started hurting very badly. And then it got down to my elbow, and like this was swollen and had a little knot. I was like, okay, Lord, what is going on here? And I'm trying to, work and get myself better. Lord, just help me figure out what's happening. And so I just thought about what I knew about arthritis, that it'll move around to your joints,
Yes.
from one place to the other. And I said, okay, I think this may be arthritis. And so I started on the search to how do I naturally heal myself from arthritis. And so the first thing I saw was oregano.
No, and that's what everybody has.
Yes, and I was like, oregano? Really? That's stuff I have in my cabinet. Like I cook with oregano. So at that point, I never thought about tea as a drink, using herbs as a drink. Never thought about it as a tea.
Always sweet tea here in the South.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I'm not a big sweet tea drinker, but I do like hot tea. Like I have a row of tea in my pantry. So I've always been a tea drinker, but I've just drank like green tea, black tea, chamomile or something like that to help me sleep, or lemon and ginger when I got a little cold or something like that. So I've always drank that, but I just never thought to add an herb to it. So I said, we have bushes and bushes of oregano out there, like trees.
In your garden.
And I was just like, what in the world? I said, okay, I'm going to go cut some. So I'm going to go and cut it, and I cut it. And I come back inside, and I go ahead and I watch several videos on it. I read a little bit about it. I go to Pinterest and just go to a lot of different places. And I get the tea, I boil it in the pot, and I strain it off, and I put a little lemon juice in it, and some sweetener. And so I drank it, and and that particular day, or that particular week, I couldn't even rest my arm on the armrest in the car. Like it was that painful. And and so I drank the tea, and I sat down to do something as I was finishing the tea, and I could already feel the relief in my arm. And I thought, okay,
That's instant.
yeah, this is weird. It's a good weird, but thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
And so I began to give God praise, immediately, because I knew, that it was Him leading me to the tea that caused that, to be that instant. So I said, okay, I need to run an errand. So I'm going to grab another cup, and I'm going to drink another cup, and I'm going to run my errand. So I get in the car, and I rest my arm on, and not even realizing that I'm able to rest it there. And I'm driving down the road, and I'm just going, and I'm just talking to the Lord about, the newfound oregano, because I'm thinking that's the only one I can really use. And I realized that my arm is resting.
Without pain.
Without pain. And I thought, okay, that's a little weird, but I'm going to go with it. I go and run my errand, I come back, and it's still fine. So I get home, and I told Dexter about it, and he's kind of looking at me like, okay.
Don't drink too much.
Yeah, don't
overdose.
That's exactly what he said. Don't drink too much. But and he was kind of thinking, I didn't know that herbs could do that, but I know that herbal tea, because he would drink a lemon balm tea with maybe lavender, and add a little sweetener to it. And he had done that years ago, but I never drank any. But he had done that, and so he just kind of was looking, trying to figure out where the Lord was taking me with that. So then the next day, I just had the thought, I was like, we've got a lot of herbs out there. I wonder what the rest of them do. So as I began to look at it, I realized that a lot of them are antibacterial, antifungal, antimicrobial, just all of these good things that we need in our body.
More than just food.
More than just food. And I'm thinking the rosemary, the oregano, the sage, we have ginger, we have turmeric, we have lemon balm, just a little bit, and we have peppermint. I'm not really sure what happened with all of that. We have basil, and a lot of those things are good for blood pressure and the heart and all these stuff. It's just like, Lord, this stuff has been outside in this garden. Like, we've been out there on our property for 8 years, in which I did talk a little bit about how we ended up there.
Yeah.
And so
we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, so and I'm just like, we have all these herbs out here, and I've never touched a one. And back up a little bit more, we've always stood on divine healing. Now, we've never been about a lot of medicine or taking medicine. We've taken more in the past few years than we have in all of our married lives. So and because of COVID and all these things. So other than that, we never really took medicine. And so
Danny and I are like that. It's more divine healing than medicine.
Yeah.
You use the medicine as a, like cough. You have things that you take and drink for a cough.
Right.
But divine healing's number one.
That's it. And that's where we've always stood on. And our kids, like Diamante's wife, she has to make him basically take medicine because he didn't grow up that way, and so he doesn't know, like, what is this going to do to me? What are the side effects? Those are the kind of things that he's asking, because it's just not normal for him. And so I'm just like, Lord, you have given us a medicine cabinet right here in our yard. You've gifted us with so many things, and we've just gotten so far away from it, trusting man and all of these things that are made, and not you, that you give us straight from the ground. And just naturally with the seed, you go back to the Bible, it talks about the seed that he'll provide, for you with your food.
And the herbs for healing.
Yeah, and the herbs. And I'm just like, why have we gotten so far away from this? And so I just started watching video after video and just started taking notes. And so I just get to the point, I'll go out there and just cut the rosemary, the sage, the thyme, and just dump it all, oregano, and dump it all in a pot. And and it was so good and so soothing to my stomach, and I was having stomach issues, and it was just so soothing.
Isn't it amazing sometimes that the simple things like that, you take it for granted because we walk out here all the time.
Yeah.
And when I was living, she lives close to where I used to live, like less than half a mile down the road. And we never met until about a year ago.
Yeah.
And she didn't live out there when I lived out there, but she's moved there since I moved off. And when I lived out there, I tried different herbs, and I was trying to become a natural health consultant. That's something I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to have all my herbs and have people come in and test the teas and make the capsules and make the tinctures and all that stuff. And when I was studying all that years ago, this is probably 20 years ago, I was amazed. I was like you, it's all here.
Yeah.
God gives it to us. It's all here. And I had several herb books, and I borrowed herb books from a friend. He had a supply, and so I probably had 50 herb books at one time, all varieties, so that I could test one against the other.
Yeah.
And see, and you were doing that with videos, books, and the whole thing. You were searching out, because you don't want to take one person's word for anything.
Right.
Where you may have seen somebody uses a teaspoon of something, the next person may use a tablespoon.
Right.
You have to feel for your own body.
That is correct.
And see, we're not used to feeling things in our body.
Right.
I learned that when I was pregnant. I had the first two in the hospital, decided to have the third one home birth. And you learn what your body can and can't take, and you learn to listen to your body. People don't listen to their body
That is
anymore.
so true. Yeah.
We just keep pushing it. And like you were
And
at
that's
the
what
school
happened.
every day taking care of kids and administration, and you had the whole thing up to here, and you put Cynthia on hold.
Yeah, I did.
And you said, I'll deal with me later. I got kids, I got teachers, I got parents.
Those were exact words. Those were
we'll
words.
deal later.
Yeah.
And so you put everything on hold. So let's back up a little bit to where, when you moved to your property, you lived in town to start with.
Yes.
So
I grew up in the city, as small as my little town was, but we would call it city. And my husband and I moved to Hattiesburg to go to USM, and we just never went back to the Delta, which is where we grew up. So we raised our children in the city. We lived in Petal at one time, but they lived most of their lives in Oak Road. And we lived in the city. And so my oldest son, he wanted to be a chef. And he knew that very early on. He wanted to be a chef. Anytime they had a party, a school event where food needed to be brought, since 7th grade, he always made his own. Whatever he wanted to bring, he would take it. And he cooked something. He never brought a bag of chips. He never did just a dip. If he did, he was going to make the dip. Like he's always known he's wanting to do that. So he wanted to do that. So then, Dexter always wants to support, what they're doing. And he said, well, we're trying to get to a natural way of living, more natural way of life. And so I think by that time we had chickens, and so we were getting eggs from the chickens at that point in the city. We had a little place in the backyard where we could do that. And so he said, I think we need to just sell our house and move to the country. And I thought, okay, how do we do that? And so we prayed about it and talked about it. And eventually we did sell our house. By this time, my youngest son is saying he wants to be a chef. And so we're thinking, okay, so they both want to be a chef. Let's sell the property. Let's move to the country. Let's raise the food to provide a good, sustainable source for a restaurant where we can give good quality food.
Yeah.
And that'll separate us from everybody else and what everybody else is doing.
And Vivian from Chef and Chef and
love,
the Farm. I love that show.
Vivian. Like, I don't know that we ever missed a show.
No.
I loved her.
That was kind of inspiration, wasn't it?
Yes.
Because Danny and I thought about that too
Mhm.
when we were really getting our farm.
Yeah.
He's always been into farming
Mm-hmm.
for himself.
Mm-hmm.
But when he and I got together, we were looking for income, looking for ways to
Mhm.
do things, and
Mhm.
that was an idea. Do we approach restaurants and
Mhm.
say, we grow this, and
Yeah,
this we
yeah.
can provide? But we found out early on it would take quite a bit to provide a restaurant on
It
a
would.
regular
Mhm.
basis. So we were like, the
Yes.
idea is good as you watch it on TV, but
That is correct. But she did have everything outsourced, but one thing to a person.
yes,
So no
each
one,
person.
right? And so we still, eventually we still want that to be a goal, but we have to decide what we want to concentrate ourselves on.
One certain.
Yes, one thing
Yeah.
that we can really provide. If we want to do meats, we have to just do meats. We can't do meat, eggs, and herbs, and we
Mhm.
can't do all of it. So we have to
Exactly.
just figure out what it is we want to do. So that's how we ended up there. So after we got there, the Lord very quickly began to show us. And Dexter would always say, "It's something special about putting your hands in God's earth."
Oh yeah.
He said the connection, and he would say that all the time when he would go out there. So the Lord began to show us how He has provided or made provisions for us in the land. And we have just gone so far away from it because we want to live in the city and we want to have access to all these things and everybody make everything for us. He's given it to us.
Yeah.
And so we started with the chicken, the egg layers, and then we moved to the meat chickens. And actually, I think the first chickens we had were dual purpose, if I remember correctly. So we processed some of those for meat, but got the majority of eggs. And then then we started the garden, and then we added pigs, and so that's kind of all we have now. I think the next thing we're going to do, he wants to add sheep. So that's kind of how we ended up on the land, and but very quickly we learned that a lot of that was for us more than for the restaurant.
Yeah.
For us to get back to a natural way of living. And it's expensive if you want to buy good food. It's expensive to buy good food, but if you raise it yourself, you can lower that price.
Yeah. And your farm is called Farm 78.
It's Farm 78, yes.
And we'll talk about the teas in a little bit,
Yeah.
but she's got Farm 78 on her tea bags here.
Mhm.
And so once you moved out to the country, you were still in the school
Absolutely.
for several years.
Yes, we've been out there for 8 years, and so I just retired this past June. So the entire time we were out there, we were doing all that on the weekend, and in the evenings coming home, and then I go to work. And so does Dexter. Well, actually the boys for that matter, because Diamante had graduated when we moved out there, and Devin was, I think, in 9th grade. And so we've always, done whatever we do during the day, and then in the evenings and on Saturdays we spent time. Like I remember when we were building our little cabin up out there, we would we had so much dirt on the road, we would have to walk the wood up to the house or whatever the supplies were we needed, like on our backs. Like we have pictures of us carrying all this stuff
Oh my goodness.
up there. So it's a work of labor and love, but I'm so glad we did it. Like
Yeah.
so glad and so thankful. And as I moved through this journey with the teas, and the Lord has just shown me how to put some things together and how to blend them, and looking at this and that, and and I've just given them to some people to let them test it and try it and kind of tell me if it's working. Like people who are having issues with sleeping, I give them the good night tea and say talk to me and tell me what do you think about the taste, how is it helping you, would you recommend it?
Refresh.
And we haven't refreshed this morning.
And,
This is
the day that we started this, about 4 days ago, I was drinking Refresh. We were sitting in the cabin. Cynthia and I were having a nice conversation. Maybe 10 minutes into the conversation, and here comes the ranger, and here comes Danny busting up in there, and Dexter behind him, and he's holding his hand going, I need to go to the hospital. And I toted my cup back over to the house, And she set hers on the table, and I get over here and I'm still sipping on refreshed tea while Danny's going, okay, you've got to get this, and this. And I'm going, okay, and I'm taking a sip, and, trying to be calm.
Mm-hmm.
And I told Cynthia, I said, thank you for the refreshed tea. That's exactly what I needed before I had to head to the hospital. So, it has a pleasant taste.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think what it was, and did you say it had elderberry in it? Some type of berry?
This one doesn't have elderberry. Refresh. It's sage, rosemary, and ginger.
Okay, maybe it's the ginger.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking a berry taste.
Yeah, the cold and flu has the elderberry.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so the refresh just gives you that little boost you need.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
But,
this is what I drink in the mornings.
You and I were talking a couple of weeks ago about how we've gotten so far from what God wants us.
Mm-hmm.
We show up at church,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we think we're the Christian we're up here, and God's probably looking at these filthy rags going,
Mm-hmm.
no, you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You're just showing up to
Mm-hmm.
make yourself seen.
Yeah.
And we forget our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and our body's a temple.
It's the temple. That's right. That's what I'm saying.
It's a temple.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
And we take the scripture and things and we break it apart and not see it as the whole.
yeah.
And so we just
it don't apply to me because
yeah.
I'm up here.
Yeah, we want to do this part, that part, but it's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um,
If you're not taking care of your body,
yeah. You can't be that. You're not taking care of the temple, so you can't be in church. You can't assemble yourself, as the Bible has said, because you're just not well.
well, I heard somebody say something, and I'm going to see if I can apply it here. Yesterday, he was saying that he was looking at world peace, and he was going to these world peace things, and giving talks and things, wanting world peace.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he said I quit all that.
Mm-hmm.
He said I'm the only one there that wanted world peace. Everybody else was all talk.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of eye-opening.
Yeah.
And you see our world leaders and
Yeah.
where they're going,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all talk.
Yeah.
They're not moving toward anything. And he said when I would offer solutions, and he said
That's
simple
correct.
solutions
Mm-hmm.
that could be applied in any country.
Mm-hmm.
He said they go, that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever moved to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like that in church.
Yeah. Yeah.
We hear the message and we hear what they're saying, and we go, I like that idea.
Yeah.
And
But
then
what
you get
about the
home and you
application?
go,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what he said.
What about the application? And that's just where we miss it. And even when it comes to the tea, and like I said with the herbs, God has given us all that we need.
Yeah.
Like He's given us all that we need, and just going back to the seed, He's given it to us.
And that's where we try to apply here a lot. I have herbs galore.
Yeah.
I have all kinds of stuff. And everybody says, well, what do you do with all that?
Mhm.
And I'm like, I don't use most of it
Mhm.
on a regular basis
Mhm.
because I'm not sick.
Mm-hmm.
But when I want something, like I have my lemongrass.
Right.
And lemongrass is great just
Great,
to put in
yeah.
a tea.
Yeah, it's
drop
really
it into
good.
it.
Yeah.
I have lemongrass. But do I drink it every day, all day? No, I don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have sage, and I have pineapple sage, and I have rosemary.
And the pineapple sage is really good.
Oh, it's good.
Yes, I put it in a tea.
Yarrow
Mm-hmm.
is good. We have all kinds of trees
Yeah.
here that have the bark or the leaves
Yeah.
that we can use.
Yeah.
And if I feel like there's something going on in my body, I go look in my herb books and
Yes.
go, okay, let
That's
me
what I-
double check. I'm always double checking.
Yeah.
I go flip in my herb books and I check and I go, okay, I have this, this, and this on the property. Just because a herb book says a line of stuff this long, you don't have to have all of it.
Right. Right.
If your
Just
sleepy
get
time
started.
said
Yeah.
like 10 different herbs, and when you looked up
Yes.
something and you only had 5 of them on
That's
your property,
Mm-hmm.
use those 5.
Yeah.
You're going to get some benefits. Lots of times these herbs overlap.
Mm.
So
That's what I
one of
learned.
them,
Yeah.
one of them is good for the stomach, and the other's good for the stomach. But this one may be good for the heart too.
Right. And all of the herbs that I use are the most common herbs.
Yes.
Like it's not herbs that you've never heard of, or like I've started taking ashwagandha.
Mhm.
Now, I don't have that on my property, but I was sitting and my son was like, "What is that, Mama?" And it's not something that you would take often, but I wanted to put things in here that people would commonly have on their
Relate
property,
to.
and they would recognize those names and things like. So if you run out of this, maybe you can pick up something, So I just want them to know the commonality of what a tea could be, and something
what
that
it
you can
tastes
use
like.
to heal. And you already have a reference as far as taste. So I just wanted to use simple things. I didn't want to go way out and use things that people didn't know anything about, or you had to go and do a lot of study on, and which you should study and research. What you're doing
As
anyway.
an educator,
Absolutely.
promote that study and search.
Absolutely. You should always research what you're going to do. And that's a part of taking your health into your own in your
Exactly.
hands. That's a part of that. And so you need to know what it is. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just take Ms. Wanda's
And
word
don't
for
even
it.
take a doctor's word.
Absolutely. Go and research
When
it
the
for
doctor
yourself.
says you have this, here, take this pill.
Yeah.
Okay, go. I'm not saying don't take the pill,
Right.
but go look it up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And look, when you have high blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
like that was one of your key things they
Mhm.
were going to put you on blood pressure
Mhm.
medicine. When he said you have high blood pressure,
Mhm.
here, take this pill.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, let me think about this a minute. Is there a way
Mm-hmm.
I can do this naturally?
Right.
And so you've never went on high blood pressure medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, the stress of the job went
Yeah.
way down.
Yeah. Right. That is correct.
And then number two,
And
you
I started with the herbs, and then it's not perfect yet. It's not where it needs to be, but it is a whole lot better than it
And
was.
it's
And
handled.
yes, and then the way that I feel is very different, when I'm having my tea consistently and doing the things that I need to do. Absolutely.
and we were talking about when you were a child.
Yes, I was thinking about that story because I was thinking about, and I still have, and I've tried to research it and figure out why this happened, but going back to the divine healing.
Yes.
My sister had issues with strep throat always, like growing up. And one particular weekend, she didn't go to church. And so the pastor always came to our house, he and his family, when they were with him, to eat dinner after church. And so he had come this particular Sunday, and she was just in a bad way. And she was, moping around or whatever. And he said, "What's wrong with you?" And she said, "I have strep." And he said, "Well, why haven't you taken something for it?" She said, "Well, they gave me medicine, but it's just really not, really helping." He said, "You got all those pecan leaves out there. Why haven't you taken a pecan leaf?" And so it kind of stopped everybody in the kitchen, like, what is he talking about? He said, "Go out there and give me a pecan leaf. You put me some water on the stove." And so we put the water on the stove boiling. One of us go outside to get the pecan leaf, bring it back inside, drop it in the pot, boil it. I guess let it steep a little bit. I don't think he called it that. I don't know what he called it. He let it boil, put it in a cup. I don't even know if he put any sweetener or lemon juice or anything in it at that time. I think she just drank it straight. And she was thinking, "Oh, pecan leaf," and he's going, "Yeah, it's going to make you feel better." So she starts drinking it. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, she started feeling well almost immediately. The next day, she was able to go out with her friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was up and walking around and feeling better. So when I was looking at the herbs, that came back to my remembrance that the Lord had used that to heal her. When the medicine wasn't doing her any good, a pecan leaf off of a tree right in our backyard.
See, my granny, she would always have a pine tree, and she would strip the bark in a place about this long, wide and about this tall. She would strip it off. It would just have it, and a pine tree oozes when you do that.
Right.
And so, if we had a bike wreck
Mhm.
and you skint your knee,
Yeah.
she'd look at you and say, "Go to pine tree."
You told me that.
And so you will take that tar and you would put it on your bobo,
Yeah.
and it heals it.
Yeah.
And so most people don't know that pine
Right.
tar will heal a wound.
Yeah.
They're going, "Oh, put that sticky stuff." No, it works.
Yeah.
And
And it's natural.
It's natural.
Like there's nothing wrong with it, nothing in it that's gonna.
No.
But we'll take what the doctor has mixed up and formulated with all this stuff, and we'll put that on there without question.
Yes. And then another thing she did was teas. My granny did a tea. And when we were sick, with a strep throat or
Mhm.
sore throat or any kind of cold or runny nose or anything,
Mhm.
she would mix up a tea on her stove.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we were small and didn't really pay much attention to her, and she would make us drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it had some of the weirdest taste to it. And so one day we were kind of watching, and we'd gotten older, and she was mixing it up, and she was heating something on the stove and doing stuff, and she said, "I'll be right back. I got to go to the back room."
Mm-hmm.
Well, when she comes back, she pours something over in there, and we said, Granny, what is that? She said, oh, I just peed in it. So what she had done, she said, I peed in it.
Mhm.
And we really were like, oh. But we were little kids, and she didn't want us to know she had whiskey
Mhm.
in the back hid for medicinal purposes.
Mhm.
So she would go get the little bit of whiskey and come pour it in. Well, she had this plant sitting in her table, and when she turned her back, her tea went over in the plant. And it took us a few years to figure out that she had whiskey.
Mhm.
Because as a kid, we just thought that's it, and we ain't drinking none of Nanny's, Granny's stuff. That was just,
Yeah.
it's like, Granny, no,
Yeah.
we don't want none of that. I'll get well.
Yeah.
You want to get
Yeah.
well really quick.
Right, but not drinking that. But my mom used that as well.
Yeah, it was
Whiskey.
very popular to
Mhm.
have your lemon and honey.
Yeah.
And I do that now just in the wintertime. I love it as a really good soothing tea at night.
Mhm.
It's really good. I take, after Christmas, all those leftover candy canes that everybody
Yeah.
has,
Mhm.
I just store them.
Yeah.
And every night I'll take out a candy cane and put it in there, and
Mhm.
I'll throw me some lemon over in there and a touch of honey and heat it up.
Yeah.
And if you add one baby aspirin, if you're running fever or sick or anything,
Yeah.
you can add a baby aspirin
Mhm.
into it.
Mhm.
But for the most part, I don't put whiskey in mine. But
Yeah.
I just like the soothing tea
Yeah.
with the honey.
And tea is very soothing.
I put a
think
little bit
that's-
of water in it. But
Yeah.
once it gets down and I make it, I do the honey, lemon, and peppermint.
Mhm.
So it's really good.
Yeah, that's what I use for my boys, especially Devin. He would always have a cough when he was growing up. I would either give him a spoonful of honey to help with the cough, and sometimes I would give him, like I call it lemon tea. And he, like I said, they never took medicine growing up, so that
Mine
kind of stuff
didn't
is all they
either.
need. So he would go to school, and somebody would be coughing, like one of the teachers, like, "You need some of my mama's lemon tea," so it'll make you feel better. But
That's the way my girls now. My youngest is really bad about not going to a doctor.
yeah,
And every time she starts to do something, her husband's going, "You're using some of your mama's recipes, aren't you?"
That's correct. And I'll give you some too.
Yeah, and he steers away from it lots
Yeah.
of times. But now the peppermint,
Mhm.
he learned that it would work. He always had stomach issues.
Yeah.
And they were at a restaurant, and they were fixing to go in to eat, and he says, "I just don't feel good. Y'all
Yeah.
go eat. You and the
Mhm.
kids go eat." And she said, "Well, I have this peppermint
Mhm.
roller ball,
Mhm.
and it's just peppermint and carrier oil,
Mhm. Yeah.
fractionated coconut oil in it."
Right.
And her son has those issues,
Mhm.
and he's younger, and so she said, "Kate keeps this all the time,
Mhm.
and he'll roll it on his stomach, and
Right.
it feels kind of
Makes you
queasy."
feel so much better.
So she left the peppermint stick with the roller ball in the car with
Mhm.
him, and she went in and she said, "We ordered food and sat down," and she said, "I ordered him a plate to go."
Mhm.
And she said, "We were sitting there eating," and said, "It'd been about 20 minutes."
Mhm.
And he comes walking in, and she goes, "Will you feel better?" And he said, "Yeah, I used your mama's peppermint stuff."
Yeah, and
You know?
peppermint leaves are really good
Yeah.
for soothing the stomach, and that's one thing I've learned. Like I said, I was having stomach issues, and the tea has just done an amazing job with calming my stomach and bringing it back to a something that I can recognize.
Yeah.
Just to say the least.
So let's talk about Refresh is the one we're drinking
We're
now.
drinking Refresh now.
And we talked a little bit about a while ago. You said you use this one in the morning, but
Right.
it can be drank any
It
time
can
of
be
the day.
drank any time of the day, in the middle of the day. If you just need a little pick me up, I just use it. Sage is one of those things that kind of helps your cognitive and kind of gets you going a little bit, and a little bit of alertness. And so does ginger. So those are the two things, plus the rosemary. And rosemary is in all of the teas because it's just got so many properties. And I just thought it's just wise to just drink a little rosemary every single day.
I put it on chicken.
Yes,
I
yes.
went out a couple of nights ago and grabbed me some because I got it fresh outside my
Right,
kitchen door.
right. That's it.
And I snipped it off and come in and put it on my
Come
chicken, and
every
the
day.
house just smells so good.
Every day you need some rosemary. Just a little bite.
rosemary's good.
It is good for you.
All right, now this is a good night tea.
This is a good night tea, and I can't remember all of what's in all of it. I brought my book, but I think I left it in there. But I know this has lavender, lemon balm, and chamomile for sure. And I think it's got rosemary in it also, because like I said, it's just good. It's in all of them. And seems like there's one more thing, but it just has this calming effect. It doesn't. I
It
try
doesn't make you
It
sleepy.
doesn't make you sleep. It doesn't knock you out or anything. But I mean, it just calms you down and bring you to a place really where you can kind of get your bearings around you and think. And so when you're ready to rest,
And you know,
you're
one
ready to lie
thing we
down.
found is if you sit and watch the internet or watch TV or you're watching a movie or you're doing something till 10 o'clock and then you try to go to bed, your brain can't shut
it
down.
can't stop. It
if
doesn't
you
stop.
stop and give yourself 20, 30 minutes or so
And
to
that's
chill.
about how long it takes to get this going. Like
Yeah.
you, 20 minutes before you go to bed, maybe 30. And again, like she's saying, just give your brain a chance to
Don't
just
be watching stuff. Just shut down.
Just shut it down.
That's the biggest thing I think most people
I agree.
that can't sleep
Mm-hmm.
is their brain is
It
functioning
doesn't- it
and then you
doesn't
want to
stop.
sleep.
Yeah,
You
it
want
doesn't
it just
stop.
to go from A to B,
Yeah,
and it don't work
Yeah.
that way for most people.
yeah.
Now, this one is called the cold and flu.
Yes, and
Everybody needs this one.
I know, especially going into this season, and it's got the echinacea, the oregano, peppermint, rosemary, of course, ginger, elderberry. It may have one more thing, and I can't remember what that would be, but it's got a lot of really good stuff in it. And again, all of those things are things that everybody recognizes.
Yes.
And,
And so with this one too, we were talking, did you put the lemon in yours?
I did.
She put lemon in
Always.
hers, and she puts orange or orange peels or
Yes.
something like that.
Yes.
But instead of putting it in the tea, she's been doing like the slices or pieces
Right.
or something.
Right, that is correct. I wanted to make them where I would put the lemon in there already, but I really like doing it separately, where I have slices of lemon, or I have organic lemon juice that I juice myself from an organic lemon, or I have bought organic lemon non-concentrate in the bottle. I get it at a health food store, and it's organic. So I wouldn't put a non-organic lemon
No.
in here. I wouldn't
You
put.
defeat the purpose.
That's correct. I wouldn't put sugar in here. I would use
We
honey.
did honey.
I would use honey, raw honey, or honey that is local honey. I would use a sweetener of some kind, but I would not use sugar.
Yes, I did. At the beginning, you're probably going to see that we mixed up our tea over at the cabin. I'm going to use that in this, but I used a honey that I bought from Jack's Plant and Patio, which is a local honey, and you used I think it was orange slice that I had.
Yes, I can't remember if it was orange or lemon. I just grabbed one.
Yeah, I think it was orange last time.
Yes,
the first time.
Yes, that's right.
We put it in. I freeze dried some. Or no, these were dehydrated.
Dehydrated.
These were dehydrated.
Yeah.
I did a whole bunch of oranges and lemons a couple of years ago with the dehydrator, and so she used one of those in the last time. And today you've got lemon that I'm. Well, no, actually,
and I also
lime.
have a lemon and lime. See, I have.
Oh, that's right. You
I
put
have
the
both.
lemon
Yeah.
in there that I dehydrated.
That's right.
Then I had a piece of key lime, and she threw that over
and it's
in there.
delicious.
So our key limes are getting ready.
Mm-hmm.
Our satsumas and our oranges and our lemons are fixing to get ready. So I'm fixing to have a supply of vitamin C.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
if you're not growing your own, look for the best organic you can find.
Yes, absolutely.
You can slice them and freeze dry. I mean, well, I have a freeze dryer, but you can do the dehydrating. You do that, right?
I do the dehydrating, or like I said, if I don't have that, I just juice it. I have a little juicer, and I just juice it by hand. Or at the health food store, I can get some organic lemon juice, lime juice, and I usually get them once a month.
And for anybody that does find them organic, like in bulk,
Yes.
I have these little trays that you can put your juice in and freeze.
Yes.
And then you can pop them out of that tray and
Yes,
put them in a
that's a
Ziploc
good
bag.
idea. That's a good idea.
And you have it. And so one thing I juiced last year was cucumbers. I had so many cucumbers last year.
Yeah.
Cucumber is amazing.
And that's good. Great diuretic.
Yeah. If you need to have something like that, and it's a good cool drink.
Yes.
In my cookbook, I have a what I call
Cucumber.
sassy water.
Yeah.
It's cucumbers, lemon, ginger. I can't remember if there's anything in it. Oh, lime. Cucumbers, lemons, ginger, and the peppermint or spearmint. Either
Yes.
one, any
That is
mint.
good. Yeah.
You take your leaves and put over in there, and it is a wonderful, refreshing drink. And you can put it over ice. They serve it lots of times at these spas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a spa drink.
And that's
know?
another good thing about these. You can have them over ice, or you can drink them hot. I drink all of my tea, not all of it hot. I'm not really a iced tea drinker.
Yeah.
My family is, and they don't allow me to make their sweet tea at all. They don't allow me to touch the sweet tea. And when I start making, like, mom, just let me do that. So, but I like my tea hot, and but you can have it over ice. I've had this over ice, and it tastes better to me than sweet tea.
Yeah.
And so I think that's always a good option. And sometimes what I started doing at one point, but I stopped because of the sucralose that's in the syrups.
Yes.
Yeah, you can add a little bit of that in there, and I mean it really brings the flavor up. But because of the sucralose and me trying to get my gut in a better place, that sugar wasn't a good thing for me.
Anything with the OSCs
That's
on the
correct.
end, you have to watch.
That is correct. So, but it does help with the flavor, and I mean, it makes you can add a peach to it, and it makes you think you're having peach tea. You can add a raspberry, and you're having raspberry tea. I mean, it's really good if you don't have gut issues or anything like that. You know, that may be another option. If you're gonna drink it cold, but I would drink it like that hot as well.
Yeah.
It's just good.
Teas are something that don't get recognized a lot because everybody's a coffee drinker.
That's
Now,
right.
I'm a coffee drinker.
Yeah.
I like my coffee.
Yeah.
But I like my teas.
Yeah.
I try to balance it sometimes. And if I could just totally quit coffee, I'd probably feel better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got to have that first thing in the morning.
I know.
But I do the Ticino, which is herbal teas. I buy that and I use it in place of coffee some. So I've got a supply. I showed her I got a supply of teas. All kinds of teas. I just collect teas. And
I love tea.
so I had one lady that we went to a conference a few years ago, and I'd never met her before. These people are coming through visiting at the conference, and she comes up and she goes, "Hey, I brought you something," and she had a handful of teas, and she gave me the teas. She had actually stole them from the hotel when she started. They had a display.
Yeah.
So I call her my tea lady. From now, if I ever see her name pop up, I'm going, "There's my tea lady."
That is too
because
funny.
I said, "You brought me stolen tea."
I know. I just have boxes of tea. Like I said, I would, especially sleepy time tea, because I'm one of those people. Just because of what I do, my brain just doesn't shut down because I come home with what I had from the day, you know, as far as my job and managing so many students. I'm at I was at one of the largest high schools in the state of Mississippi.
Yes.
And so it was just a lot. I had more students.
Huge.
More students in one grade than some schools have their whole high school.
Exactly.
Some schools, I'm sorry. But, and so I come home with the cares of the day. For that day, and then I lay down with thinking about, okay, so how am I going to deal with this tomorrow?
Yes.
And so it was just never ending. So my sleep pattern has just not been really good. So I've reached out to some people at the school because I know they still have this issue because they're still in the hustle and bustle, you know, just trying to introduce this to them and trying to help them get a better night's sleep so that they're better prepared for the next day.
Yeah. So Cynthia's going to be offering these teas. We're going to put up the Farm 78, and I'm going to put up the information in the description how to get in touch with her.
Yes.
I think you have a website.
Yeah, I have a website, but email will probably be better
Email.
because the website is not quite functional.
Okay. So we're going to put her email.
Yes.
And on freesteading.com, she's over there. We're working on the marketplace. As soon as it's up, we're signing her up. We're getting her a storefront to sell teas, and we're going to work on it. And we want to thank you for coming.
Yeah, I want to thank
The
you.
second time.
Yes, and my husband said, you know, if you really want to do this, why don't you reach out to Miss Wanda? She used to be an herbalist, because I missed that part of things. And I said, are you sure? And he said, yeah, I think she used to be an herbalist. I heard that someplace. And she was so gracious as I reached out to her and to just provide such insight and information. And not only that, but invited me to come and just have a conversation. Oh, amazing. My son and daughter-in-law are not fully on board with all of this yet. They're trying to just figure out where they place in all this. So the baby is having issues with colic and gassy and all of that. So my husband grabbed one of those books last night. I was like, well, it says if you would do. And so we're trying to get them to look more natural into things. It is not hard for my son, but for my daughter-in-law. You know, says you can't make somebody do it. You got to try to get them
just
to come
kind
on
of give
board.
them
Yes,
ideas,
slowly.
and if
So,
they do it, they do it.
That is correct.
Plant a seed.
That's it. That is it.
Plant
And
a
so I
seed.
appreciate you for sending the resources that you've sent and all the information
Yeah.
that you're just a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And I've got another book. Remind me when we go in. I
I will
want to show
definitely
you.
do that.
I ain't giving it to her, but I'm going to show it to her. She
I
might
can
wanna
check it
order
out. I
one.
have checked out books from the library. As a matter of fact, I've got to take some back
Yeah.
Monday.
I had a friend send one. I think you're going to love it because it's got all the old-timey recipes
Okay.
from the South.
Oh,
All the
I like.
herbal type things and stuff. It'd probably give you some insight.
Okay.
And I was hooked when I started reading it.
Okay.
You know. So guys, we want to thank Cynthia for coming, and y'all check out Farm 78 Teas. They're going to be in the description. You're going to have to go to her website
Mm-hmm.
and deal with her on not website,
Email. You want to give it now?
Go to the email. Yes.
cvenson at farm78.com. cvenson
Yes.
at farm78.com.
Yes. And that way we'll put it in the description. You will. It's not like Etsy. You're going to have to deal with her
Right.
and how you pay and things like that. But once we get Marketplace up, we're gonna
Yes.
hopefully have some of that done. And y'all, we got a place or two we want to see if we have time to visit, and we headed out of here. Hate to cut it short, but we'll talk to y'all later.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.